Need a hand with that?
Yes, thank you.
Let me take that.
On the edge of a quiet village stood an old abandoned mansion. The house had been empty for many years, and no one in the village liked to go near it after sunset. Tall trees surrounded the building, and their branches moved slowly in the wind, making soft whispering sounds in the darkness. The villagers called it the mysterious house, and strange stories had spread about it for decades. Some people claimed they had seen faint lights glowing inside the broken windows late at night. Others said they heard footsteps echoing through the empty halls, even though no one lived there. A few villagers even believed they had seen dark shadows moving behind the dusty curtains. Because of these rumors, parents warned their children to stay far away from the mansion. They believed something strange and dangerous lived inside.
But there was one young man in the village who never believed these stories. His name was Adam. Adam had always been curious about mysteries and unexplained places. While others were afraid of the unknown, Adam felt excited by it. Whenever he passed the old road that led toward the mansion, he would stop for a moment and look at the silent building in the distance. He often wondered what secrets might be hiding inside those dark walls. For years, Adam had thought about exploring the mansion, but he never actually tried to enter it. Something always stopped him. Sometimes it was the late hour, sometimes the cold weather, and sometimes it was the uneasy feeling that grew inside him whenever he looked at the house too long. Still, the question never left his mind. Was the mansion truly haunted, or were the villagers simply afraid of their own imagination? One cold autumn evening, the answer to that question came closer than Adam expected. The moon was bright in the sky, and the quiet village streets were empty. Adam stood near his window and looked toward the distant shape of the mansion. The old building stood silently under the moonlight, as if it were waiting for someone to approach it. After a long moment, Adam made a decision. Tonight he would finally discover the truth. He grabbed a flashlight and put on his jacket before quietly stepping outside. The wind was cold, and dry leaves covered the road. As Adam began walking toward the mysterious house, he felt both excitement and nervousness growing inside his chest. Step by step, he moved closer to the everyone feared. When he finally reached the iron gate of the mansion, he noticed something unexpected. The gate was slightly open, slowly moving with the wind. Adam stopped for a moment, staring at the dark entrance ahead. Then he pushed the gate gently and stepped inside. Adam stepped through the iron gate and slowly walked along the narrow path that led toward the mansion. The ground was covered with dry leaves, and every step he took made a soft cracking sound in the quiet night. The closer he moved toward the building, the more he felt a strange tension growing inside his chest. The mansion looked even darker up close, and the broken windows reflected the pale moonlight like empty eyes watching him. For a moment, Adam stopped and looked back toward the village. Everything behind him was calm and peaceful. Warm lights glowed in the distant houses where families slept safely inside. But in front of him stood the silent mansion, waiting in darkness. Adam took a deep breath and turned back toward the building. He had come too far to stop now. He walked up the old stone steps that led to the front door. The wooden door looked ancient and worn by time. Cracks ran across its surface, and rusty metal hinges held it in place. Adam raised his hand and pushed the door gently. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, with a long creaking sound, the door began to open. A wave of cold air rushed out from the darkness inside the house. Adam felt a chill run across his arms. He turned on his flashlight and pointed it into the hallway. Dust floated through the beam of light like tiny silver particles drifting in the air. The inside of the mansion looked exactly as people imagined it would. Old furniture stood broken and covered with thick layers of dust. Spiderwebs stretched between the walls and the ceiling. Several faded paintings hung crookedly along the hallway, their frames dark and cracked. Adam stepped inside carefully. The wooden floor creaked beneath his boots, and the sound echoed through the empty house. The silence felt heavy, almost unnatural. It was the kind of silence that made every small sound seem loud. Adam slowly walked deeper into the hallway, moving the flashlight from side to side as he looked around. Suddenly, something unusual caught his attention. He pointed the light toward the dusty floor and leaned closer. There were marks in the dust. At first, they looked like random shapes, But when Adam examined them carefully, he realized what they were. Footprints, fresh footprints clearly pressed into the dust. Adam felt his heart begin to beat faster. The mansion was supposed to be abandoned, yet someone had clearly walked through this hallway not long ago. He slowly followed the footprints with the beam of his flashlight. They led farther into the house, disappearing into the darker part of the corridor. Just as Adam took another step forward, a faint sound echoed somewhere above him. It was quiet at first, almost impossible to hear. But then it came again. Soft footsteps moved slowly across the floor upstairs. Adam froze instantly, holding his breath as he listened carefully. Someone else was inside the mansion tonight, moving quietly through the darkness above him alone. Adam stood perfectly still in the middle of the hallway. The sound of footsteps upstairs had been faint, but it was clear enough to make his heart pound. For a moment he wondered if his mind was playing tricks on him. Maybe the old wooden house was settling, or perhaps the wind had moved something upstairs. But deep inside, Adam knew the truth. Someone else was in the mansion. He slowly lifted his flashlight and pointed it toward the staircase at the end of the hallway. The wooden steps rose into darkness, disappearing on the second floor. The footprints on the dusty floor led directly toward those stairs. Adam swallowed nervously. Every instinct told him to leave the house immediately and return to the safety of the village. But curiosity held him in place. Adam took a slow breath and began walking toward the staircase. Each step across the wooden floor produced a small creaking sound that echoed through the quiet building. The noise felt painfully loud in the silence. When he finally reached the bottom of the stairs, he paused again and listened carefully. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then he heard it again. A soft movement above. Adam tightened his grip on the flashlight and placed one foot on the first step. The stair creaked under his weight. Slowly and carefully, he climbed upward. The beam of light moved across the wooden railing and the dusty walls beside him. Every step felt slower than the last. Halfway up the staircase, the air suddenly felt colder. Adam could not explain why, but the entire house seemed heavier somehow, as if the darkness itself had weight. He forced himself to keep climbing. Finally, he reached the top of the stairs. The second-floor hallway stretched out in front of him, darker than the one below. Several doors lined both sides of the corridor. Most of them were closed, and thick dust covered the floor here as well. Adam moved his flashlight slowly across the hallway. That was when he noticed something strange. A faint glow of light appeared beneath one of the doors at the far end of the corridor. Adam stared at it in disbelief. There was no electricity in the mansion. The entire place had been abandoned for years. Yet a clear line of light was shining from under that door, cutting across the dusty floor like a thin blade. Adam's heart began beating even faster. He slowly started walking down the hallway toward the glowing door. With every step, the light became brighter. When he reached the door, he noticed something else. The footprints he had followed from downstairs stopped right in front of it. Adam raised his hand toward the door handle, but he hesitated for a moment. Whoever was inside that room was the same person who had been walking through the mansion. Taking a deep breath, Adam slowly turned the handle and pushed the door open. Adam slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside the room. The sight in front of him was so unexpected that he stopped instantly. Instead of a dusty, empty bedroom, the room looked like a hidden laboratory. Tables filled the space from wall to wall. Strange machines stood quietly beside stacks of papers and notebooks. Wires, tools, and small glass containers covered the tables as if someone had been working there only moments ago. A soft white lamp glowed on the desk in the center of the room. That was the light Adam had seen under the door. He moved his flashlight slowly across the room, trying to understand what he was looking at. Nothing about the place looked abandoned. The equipment seemed carefully arranged, and some of the machines were still making a faint humming sound. Suddenly, Adam heard a voice behind him. "You shouldn't be here." Adam spun around quickly. His heart jumped in shock when he saw an old man standing near the doorway behind him. The man had gray hair and tired eyes, but his posture was calm and steady. He did not look frightened or angry. Instead, he simply watched Adam carefully, as if he had been expecting someone to arrive sooner or later. I didn't mean to break in," Adam said nervously. Everyone in the village thought this house was empty. The old man studied him for a moment before speaking again. "That is exactly what I wanted them to believe," he said quietly. Adam blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" The man walked slowly toward the desk in the center of the room. As he moved, Adam noticed that the footprints in the dust downstairs must have belonged to him. The old man stopped beside a small metal box resting on the table. Without saying anything else, he opened it. Inside the box was something glowing with a soft blue light. Adam leaned forward slightly, staring at the strange object. It looked like a small crystal, but the light inside it pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. The glow reflected across the old man's face and filled the room with a faint blue color. "What is that?" Adam asked quietly. The old man looked at the crystal before answering. "This," he said slowly, "is the reason I had to disappear." Adam's confusion only grew stronger. Disappear from what? The man closed the metal box carefully and rested his hands on the table. For a moment he seemed lost in thought. Then he looked back at Adam with a serious expression. "This," he said slowly, "is the reason I had to disappear." Adam's confusion only grew stronger. Disappear from what? The man closed the metal box carefully and rested his hands on the table. For a moment he seemed lost in thought. Then he looked back at Adam with a serious expression. Adam stood quietly in the strange laboratory as the old man's words echoed in his mind. For years the entire village had believed the mansion was haunted, yet the truth was something completely different. The old man slowly lifted the metal box again and opened it once more. The blue crystal inside continued glowing softly, casting a calm light across the room. "This energy source," the old man explained, "has the power to change how the world works. It can produce clean energy without smoke, without fuel, and without pollution. A single crystal like this could power an entire city for years." Adam stared at it in amazement. The discovery sounded unbelievable, yet the glowing crystal in front of him looked very real. The faint humming sound coming from the nearby machines suggested that the energy inside the crystal was already being tested. "But if this is such an important discovery," Adam asked carefully, "why hide it here? Why not show it to the world?" Adam stared at it in amazement. The discovery sounded unbelievable, yet the glowing crystal in front of him looked very real. The faint humming sound coming from the nearby machines suggested that the energy inside the crystal was already being tested. "But if this is such an important discovery," Adam asked carefully, "why hide it here? Why not show it to the world?" Adam felt uneasy hearing those words. The peaceful glow of the crystal suddenly seemed more dangerous than before. "So you hid here?" Adam said quietly. The old man nodded. "Yes. I disappeared and allowed the rumors about this house to grow. People fear ghosts and dark stories. Fear keeps them away. As long as everyone believed the mansion was haunted, no one would come searching for the truth." Adam looked around the room again. Suddenly, everything made sense. The strange lights seen in the windows, the mysterious sounds at night, the stories that had frightened the village for years. All of it had been part of the same secret. The old man closed the metal box once again and looked directly at Adam. "Now you understand why this place must remain hidden," he said. Adam stood silently for a moment. The night had started with curiosity, but it had led him to a secret far bigger than he expected. "What will you do now?" the old man asked. Adam thought carefully before answering. "I won't tell anyone," he said finally. "Some secrets need the right time to be revealed." The old man studied him for a moment, then slowly smiled. Outside, the wind moved through the tall trees surrounding the mansion, carrying whispers through the night. And from that moment on, the mysterious house remained exactly what the villagers believed it to be. A place full of secrets, and a mystery waiting in silence.